Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everything Journals. I'm Tara.
And I'm Steph.
We're excited to be here and finally be doing this podcast. Really, it's all about journaling, crafting things that we have fallen in love with along our journey and want to share with others that may just be getting into journaling, maybe hesitant, and just need that little kickstart. And then, of course, sharing favorite products and things that we found along our way. What got you into journaling? Let's just start there. What started
Hmm.
you with journaling?
Yes, this is my favorite story to tell. It was your fault. So, well, no, I kid. I think, well, when we were kids, and for the viewers and audience out there, we are sisters in case you couldn't tell. You can take a poll on who's older. But when we were kids, I remember journaling quite a bit and doing like a scrapbook style, but there was also a lot of writing, poetry, song lyrics. That was my way of journaling and getting big emotions out that I couldn't figure out how to express otherwise. And then I feel like I went into this like black hole of not doing anything with journaling for a really long time. I felt like I wrote enough for work between emails and proposals and all that. I did not want anything to do with that at the end of the day. But recently, in the last few years, it's actually been you showing me your everything journal that has pulled me back in and just completely fell in love with the practice and what it's done for me in my life. And I've stuck with it ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like most people like or at some point in their life had some encounter with journaling, right? Or like a favorite notebook, a favorite pen, something, but maybe didn't find the right way to journal. And that was always mine. I think similar to you growing up, I always had or maybe I should say I was an avid collector of journals and journal related things, but I never felt like the way that I journaled was good enough to keep going. When we were younger, scrapbooking became a big thing. So we tried that, like you mentioned, for a little while, but I could never get it perfect enough to look like those photos and pictures that you see examples of. And so I'd start for a little bit and then I'd fall off. And actually, not too long ago, I found one of my, I would say, teenage journals. One of these episodes, I'll debut some of what's in it. Other parts are just too embarrassing. But I have parts in there where I did try to write a lot more. But reading them back, I actually realized I was almost, I'm not sure if this is the right word for it, but I was almost masking in what I wrote. I would write part of what was happening, but when I remember back to like the event that was happening, I was like, well, that's only a portion. You didn't tell the full thing, or you didn't tell the full severity, or whatever it was. And that kind of opened my eyes to the fact that maybe I'm not a writer for journals. Maybe I needed another path or avenue through journaling because even through the years, even though I didn't always use them, I collected. I have this lovely little bookshelf or little cabinet, and it's full of beautiful notebooks, journals, all those things. And they're just not full. And so you mentioned my everything journal. It was probably a little over a year ago now, I started watching videos, and that really I was laying in bed at night scrolling, right, on TikTok, Instagram, wherever it was. I was mindlessly scrolling because that was my way to check out. And I got on the junk journal or creative journaling side of TikTok, watching all these other people create, create, create. And I was like, well, I think I could maybe do that, but it's too silly for me, or I'm just not creative enough, right? And actually it was with you and my daughter. We were in Oregon at a bookstore. I think we were at Powell's.
Yes, that's the one. Downtown.
And I mentioned it to you guys like this journal would be like cool for that. And then you both like, well, why don't you just do it? Like it's not a big deal. But here I'm like thinking, no, I'm not going to do it. But we bought the journal, and still in my mind, it was just to add to my collection of pretty journals. But I'll show you. It actually became my first full everything journal or creative journal, junk journal, whatever we want to call it. So this is the one. And that sparked it. And now you see a line kind of behind over on this cabinet of journals says that. So I just haven't stopped.
I had no idea that was your first everything journal. Wow. Okay, that's really cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad we made you do it because for some
You
reason, I
did.
thought you had started it before then and you were looking for like your next one because you've like, I don't know, you have all these techniques, ideas, and the amount of spreads you made, I assumed you had started well before that. That's crazy. I never knew that before.
Well, other avenues, I think. Like, so I tried that through like more. scrapbooking and or just I had a planner, and so I would do some of what I saw videos of just putting like the receipt in there. So like more basic. So I would still say some people call that junk journaling, things like that. But as far as committing to one, finishing it, and really embracing that this is my style, I would say that was the first one. And maybe it felt like I was already doing it because I was already collecting. Like I already felt like I can collect this because I could put it in a journal, right? And so then it just unleashed. It was almost like you guys gave me this permission to do it as a middle-aged woman. Like, yes, have your journal, have your fun. And I was like, right on, I'm gonna do it. And so here we are. But
It's so funny you use the word permission because I've been doing quite a bit of writing, just reflecting on what journaling has done in life and how it's helped because there's been a lot of signals from the universe or whatever you want to call it that have encouraged me or nudged me back towards journaling. One of those being my therapist, very blatantly saying you should probably journal about this. But similar to your path, I just never found one that felt like something I wanted to do and was drawn to. It more often felt like an obligation and something else I had to do or squeeze in. Like, I am not the person that wakes up and does a morning reflection. I am waking up the latest I possibly can to roll up to my desk with 1 minute to spare. Like, I'm not getting up early to do that, nor midday can I like check out. Nighttime is really the realistic time that I do it, but typically that's when my brain actually wants something lighter and easier to think about, not reflecting on the day. Normally I want to forget about the day. So it didn't ever quite fit in because it all felt a lot heavier than I wanted it to. But you showing me the everything journal and how it can be light. It can just be like scraps from a totally ordinary day. You don't have to think heavily about it, but it helps you capture those memories. That started to turn into even permission I felt I needed to give myself to then start buying the pretty journal or the stickers or use that pink color that I normally would be like, no, that's not like sophisticated and cool, but I actually was really drawn to. And it's been this interesting, like, snowball effect of small permissions with what I'm doing with my spreads or even getting for like supplies that have started to like just bring a little bit of joy and lightness and remind me like, hey, there might be a little bit of a girly girl in there that still loves her stickers.
we're gonna pull her out. We're gonna find her. No, it's funny you say that because I do recall, like, even just your style in general has always been um, very professional looking. And I've always been a little bit envious of it because you have a way of putting things together where they just look so nice and pleasing, and I would say aesthetic. And that's like the opposite of me. When I throw it in, I'm throwing all the color, all the. And so I saw you start making these changes, and I was like, she's in there. She's in there. That girl is coming out. And honestly, that's what we are, right? We're kids at heart with now adult money. So have a little fun with it. We have no parents telling us you can't go buy those stickers or that extra washi tape.
Hey, it's less harm than that shirt, the jean. I mean, with how much jeans are, shoes. Not that I don't still buy those too, but it's a little bit of a redirect sometimes. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the time that you showed this to me made all the difference too. It was just fateful when you must have started yours and then I saw it, every time I'd come to visit, you were collecting or showing like kind of gently showing me your spreads and not saying like, "Oh, you should try this." It's just, "Hey, here's what I'm up to." And then it started to like build some desire in my life to be like, "Oh, maybe I could do that." And it couldn't have been better timing because it was when work was at its peak and I felt like I was totally burnt out for the first time in my life. I thought I knew burnout before. It was unlike this. And even the fun stuff, the things that I used to find joy in, I just felt completely numb. And there was nothing I could find because I've done all the hacks. I've done all the schedules and the rituals and all I don't know what you want to call them, but all the things I've tried to be an efficient, productive, grounded human. And I was finally at a loss. Like, I don't know what to try next. Granted, I never did journal, even though my therapist told me to. But then finally, like, leaned into this. Yeah, it was always like nagging in the background. But the small shift, I started similar to you where it was like just the collecting. I hadn't started doing spreads yet, but I'd start collecting and then noticing these it was almost like I don't know, like this naughty, like fun little find that you're like, oh, there's a sticker on this cup that I'm gonna keep. And I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, but I'm gonna keep it because that's
Mhm.
just the start of the practice. And I wonder how many people out there start with maybe just collecting first before they do a spread. But that turned into eventually then putting them into a journal.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think that's part of it is accepting the process as a whole, right? It's not just the sitting down to journal piece of it. It is this whole process. It's the collection, it's the thought in every action you're doing, whether it be at a coffee shop or a work function, whatever it is, it's like detaching from the more serious piece of it, right? Because we still have to do those things, but it's allowing for a fun piece to be in it and this little scavenger hunt that you are now on, even if you're at a work function or a serious thing, you get to still have a little secret fun for yourself and it's not for anybody else. And so you start that collection. And then once you get it in the journal, that's a whole nother piece of it. And then when you add fun things to it, that's a whole nother piece to it. It becomes more than just that journal time. And that's really what made it something really special for me because similar to you and we all have our stories, right? We all have hard things we go through in life. What I found was writing thoughts or the feelings that I'm going through, right, in a journal made me live in it longer. I already was living those things through the whole day or through the whole week. It was already intense enough. So to sit down and write about it to process those feelings just held me in that longer, right? So although I tried that, and also my therapist told me to do that or to try different avenues. She'd encourage different avenues, but journaling is always one of them. Now, today I do sometimes write, but in that moment, I couldn't. I couldn't live in it longer. I needed to somewhat lighten my mood, right? And so that's where this came into play of the collection, of the lighter journaling, of still having that kind of reflection on the day, but instead of reflecting on the bad or writing about the bad or the tense or the serious, I was putting in a coffee sticker. I was putting in a journal my pharmacy bag. Like what? Why? But like you're doing these things at the end of the day to focus on some of those smaller moments as opposed to that really bigger one that may have been overwhelming and things like that. So to me it helped kind of detach from it a little bit and find a way to focus on other things because other life still is happening, right? And we shouldn't ignore those things.
Yeah. No, I love that. The scavenger hunt, the secret little scavenger hunt that adds fun to your day is so true. Like, especially when you're doing things you don't want to do. Like, I traveled for work a lot and it was not my favorite thing. But part of me was like, do it for the journal.
Airports are the hub. Like you get free magazines, you get so much. You get your tickets. Oh, it's the mecca for junk journaling.
So put a positive spin on even doing the stuff I didn't want to do because I'm like, well, I'm going to make the best of it. And even if it wasn't my favorite memory, I did notice that my mind would attach more to the moment of like finding that scrap or that thing that I put in the journal, which was usually a fun time because I'm like, oh, this is going to be perfect. Instead of my brain, I'm probably programmed to be more of I like to say realist, but maybe more of a pessimist. And my memories are often what didn't work well, what didn't work, because I'm always like trying to think about what could I optimize, what could I do better. And so if I think about the past, it's usually a place I don't want to go. It's not super happy, not super light. But this has helped me almost solidify those lighthearted memories. And now, even in the past year, the memories feel more joyful than what they had been by that silly little act of finding a scrap. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, it helps solidify in your memory those small things that once you get back to real life, they are fleeting moments, right? They're so quick. And even though you may have laughed, you may have had a good time, like you're now back to the serious. And so you do gradually forget. But like being intentional in that moment, right? Like not just going through the actions of getting that one coffee or what it helps solidify it in your mind and think back to it. It's almost like you have these different benchmarks. You're like hammering in to your memory every time you pick up a piece of that junk. And that helped me I guess, focus more on those things than the negatives. Because I'm similar to you. I also call myself a realist. My husband's a dreamer. We don't always meet in the middle, but it has helped me get closer to him of like that positive outlook on, the past and events and things like that, as opposed to just being negative Nancy.
Two peas in a pod, we are.
Yeah.
But I loved what you shared because this is one of my favorite stories that has stuck with me on the journaling journey we've been on is like you mentioned it doesn't stop real life but allows you to like kind of redirect your mind or think about something else, and it was one of the first spreads we did together. I was at your house and you were showing me how to record because I'm an old lady who just opened a TikTok account and didn't understand how to use CapCut. And so we were practicing and I was recording the first spread, and after I finished, you said, "What were you thinking about?" And I didn't say all of this to you, but in my head, I was like, my spread, dude. Like this was a lot. I'm trying to think about staying
No,
in
I
the
could tell by
frame.
your facial expression what you were thinking
What do
about
you
my
mean? Like,
question.
what do you mean? What
A
else could I
stupid
possibly?
question is that? You know what I was.
I was totally focused on this glue and this paper, and then you said exactly. And that just hit home for me because I did not realize I had stopped spinning out on everything else because I'm used to racing thoughts. I'm used to a narrative in my head. I'm always thinking about something. I have practiced meditation and tried the meditations where it's like think about your breath because you can't shut your brain off. So you normally have to direct it to one thing, but it takes effort. And you usually, even in a 1 minute meditation, have to consciously bring your mind back. This was the first time I did not have to play gymnastics with my brain, and it was like all in on doing this activity. And it was like effortless. It just didn't even dawn on me.
Yeah, no, and that's why I asked it, because when I first started, that was exactly what I noticed in myself. I was like, wow, actually like an hour or a show. I would before, I started putting videos out there, it was just me in my bed at night. My daughter had gone to sleep, my husband's off to work, he works nights. I would just sit there and do my junk journaling on my bed, and I would put a show on, right? And before I knew it, the show was over and I was still journaling, and I have no idea what happened in that show. And look, I am a lover of all things reality TV and get very involved in what's happening, okay? Don't judge me. It happens. But for the fact that I did not doom scroll, I did not sit there attentive on what was happening in their lives. I was focused on mine and the day that I just had and what I was journaling about. And I didn't think about anything else. And I could see it in you when you were sitting there so intent journaling. I was like, she's just focused. It wasn't like I was forcing you to do this weird hobby in that moment. It was like she gets it. Even though you didn't get it yet, but like her mind is where it needs to be. And that's focused in the current, in what you were doing, and not the hundred of other problems we all have spiraling around that there's really no solution for in that moment. So,
No, I love it. And I love the softness we've talked about. Like you and I both hit the ground running when we were young with careers and honestly focus on survival for different reasons, but that we were determined. We had a path, we knew what we had to do. And I was also at the time that you showed this to me at this point of like, I'm kind of tired of work being so much of my identity and my life. I always knew I do love business, but I would find hobbies that were always productive and business related and had a path towards something. And now I'm at a point that I just don't have that same passion anymore. There's a shift in me that I felt and I just didn't have an answer of what that shift is leading to. It was more a shift of what I know I don't want to keep doing and the pressure from like being in corporate or business. It's always about grow, be productive, drive more revenue, close that deal, being in sales and the constant like more, gobble, gobble, gobble. Like it just I have started to find that it's not motivating to me anymore. I want to pause. I want to be soft. I'm sick of threading the needle with the day. I want to be in one place at one time doing one thing. And that has to be possible. I believe that has to be possible.
right. No, I think 100%. And I think the same goes for anybody who, okay, maybe you don't have that corporate job, but maybe you have 3 kids at home, 2 kid even 1. Mine was 1 kid, okay? I had a career and 1 kid, and it was too much. Loved them both. They both great, great, but it does make you always feel like you have to be doing for them, you have to focus on them, you have to go, 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 you have to be productive, like you said, and productivity can happen in so many different ways, but I feel like at a certain point we tell ourselves what is productive and what isn't, and from early on, something like that, sitting down and taking 30 minutes, even 10 minutes, whatever it is, to do something for yourself, right? Like, this didn't benefit my child, this didn't benefit my career, didn't benefit my husband, then why would I be doing that? And that's where I think through time we lose part of like our identity, our individual of who we are, what we enjoy, and things like that. So it was almost this freeing moment of like, no, I can say if somebody asked me, what'd you do last night? I junk journaled, I creative journaled, whatever you want to call it. And that was productive for me. And once you kind of re-embrace that, you open the door to really fully explore it and be okay with what that productivity is, because it is productive for you internally, and not having to classify that as work or family or anything along those lines. That doesn't mean it's not meaningful.
Exactly. Yeah, this has been an interesting hobby that even though there isn't a tie to growing revenue or building a business, I feel as fulfilled as if I did spring cleaning. Like there's something therapeutic and beautiful about the organization and therapy of like taking all this random junk and taking out your bits and making really pretty spreads that I do actually feel productive with it. Like in some way, but like a lighter productivity where again it's not an obligation or a pressure to do something. And I was looking, so since you showed yours, I'll show mine. I wouldn't do this ever again, but I remember you mentioning like the soft cover is important. So I went that route, but I did the spiral because I had this grand idea that a spiral notebook would expand a little bit better on the spine. And unfortunately, these pages are like falling out now. I don't know if you can, it's very bright, like falling out at this point. So I had to abandon a good chunk. There's maybe 10 spreads in here, and I ripped out the rest of the papers. But I was going back through it, and there were trips I totally forgot about. Like when we were in Texas, totally
Yeah.
spaced that. Yeah. See, oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like, where
Yep.
was I? What? What? Oh, yeah, we had that entire trip. And now when you go back and look through, I'm sure a lot of people probably feel that way. There's days, entire weeks, trips, months maybe that you had forgotten what you're up to. And it's all captured here in a much different way than if I were scrolling back through pictures on my phone.
Definitely. Well, because you also have pieces of it. So talking about that Texas trip, I also then like put in a card that our mom had gotten us, some tissue paper, a wine. I think you guys brought some wine, somebody
We
did, I
did.
can't remember, but a wine bottle label. So you start going back to those moments, those smaller ones, not just who was there, like you said, looking at those pictures, but the actual things, or like the store business cards. I should see if I can find the spread, but it's all jammed into one spread. But it's like this whole few days that I'm like, oh yeah, we did that, and we went shopping, and we went to the little beach, and we collected crabs. Well, I did, and anyways, story for another time.
For that part.
But we did these things, and it is more of a spark than just the photos. So it becomes something special. And so I'm glad that even though your first journal, even mine, with it being hardcover, that's why I told you go soft cover. It's not perfect. It doesn't sit on the shelf perfectly. It doesn't expand great, but it is still special, and it's beautiful, and it's well loved. And so even your falling out pieces of paper, they're going to, a few years down the road, still have really special meaning. And so I think that's the beauty in this, is it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't have to be something we feel like we are going to put on display for everybody else to see. It's truly for us to look back on, reflect, and have those moments to ourselves. And so, despite the imperfection, it's still one of the favorites. And I think yours will become that, or is maybe already that, as well, for those same reasons.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I want to just figure out how I get these papers to stay in place because that freaks me
Mm.
out that they're literally ripping every time I open it, but we'll figure that
There
out
are some
eventually.
enforcement. We'll have to look at that. I've seen, and now they might be more circular, but there are some page enforcements that you might be able to put on there.
Okay.
But I could be lying to you. It could just be for binders.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe this segues into other episodes. Look,
Yeah.
we have so many things we're still learning, right? And also things that we have learned along the way. And that's one of our goals is share what we have learned, get voices on here of people who have done it far longer than us. And so they can share what they've learned and just continue to build this community and knowledge and share something that's become a deep passion for us with anyone else who will listen and give it a try. At least that's what I foresee happening through this podcast.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And I think, you've done a great job of staying committed to it. I tend to, I think, lose it a little bit. Like the visits we have together, I'll check back in. I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is really helpful. It's like, eating your vegetables or doing that thing that you're supposed to keep up on. I'm not as great, but when we had the time together, when we did your in-person meetup, and even now I have succumbed to socials, but looking on social media, other people doing this, it helps me feel like, no, there is a community of people out there doing this. And it's not a silly habit or a silly thing. It's not weird to want to go to the craft store and get stickers because I don't have a lot of people around me here that are into journaling. So I hope too that this podcast will be a space that people who are as passionate about it as us or want to become passionate can just find and listen to like-minded folks and talk about this hobby that we all love and know there's a lot of people out there doing the thing and we want to hear from each other and share what we're up to.
100%. I think that community is a huge part. And, not personal to you, but when I first started posting, because like I said, it's this journey, right? So, of course, I watched people posting videos and I was like, I think I could do that. I've never edited a video before in my life. I can barely do this creative journaling, junk journaling. But hey, let's put a camera to it, right? And let's edit it. So that was my next challenge. I was like, let me do this. And I blocked all of you as family and close friends off of these channels because I needed space to just explore me and not saying you would have any negative feedback, but sometimes it's those closest to us who even just make jokes or different things like that that like deter you from doing this. And I was like, I can't hear any of that because I'm already doing it to myself. Let me just put it out there into this community that I've been watching, right? Like I love watching those in this community. I want to be part of it. And that's what made me start posting is like I want to be connected with these people that I'm learning so much from. And so, here we are today where, I don't have tons of followers, but I have enough where it feels like a strong community for me. We engage with each other. And now, here you are, you're doing the same. You see how supportive and welcoming this community is. And that's a stark difference from the, career and competitive nature of sales and different things like that that we maybe are more used to. And so it really does have this pull. I mean, it's kept me there now for a while and consistent. So I think that's what helps me with the consistency is, there's more than just me and it's a community now and it's a welcoming community.
It really is the warmth, the positivity. I was fearful of putting spreads out there, or anything out there with my face at all for the longest time. Like I had an account, you didn't have to block me. I was not going on anyway.
That's true. You weren't kidding when you were not good with social media
Like
at
no,
all.
like we'll have to talk about that.
But you had an
Snafus.
account that I found and I was like, okay,
I don't know where it came from. I must have like given in to watch a video someone sent me once because after a certain point, they're like, you have to make an account to
that's
watch this
true.
video. But it has been really refreshing that just the kind people, the support, the ideas you can find. And I've explored other platforms. Like I was just telling you this week, Reddit has a junk journal subreddit to it.
Which I had no clue. I'm excited to check that one out.
Definitely, and that one's more like, hey, I'm just posting and sharing, and people will engage and stuff. But it's interesting to see the different platforms have styles. Some are more picture, some are more video. But I thought the junk journal one just spoke so well to what this community is as like a final point where there's subreddits to journaling and scrapbooking in Reddit and each like community has its own rules. And I'm not picking on these other ones, but they have very strict rules like journaling is just writing. Scrapbooking is just like scrapbooking. And when I read the rules for the junk journal one, so I didn't go make a fool of myself in my post, it was like everything goes any type of journaling that you do, whether it's junk or not or writing, like it is all welcome here. And that's part of why I love your name of like it is an everything journal. There are no rules. If it makes you feel good and that's what you want to create, it's welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I needed no rules. I mean, I respect that everyone has their form and method, but mine needs to be free. It needs to not have any restrictions or it won't continue to happen. So, it's a fun way to journal in a great community.
I agree. I agree. So I think our next episode, we're going to be getting into some of our favorite finds since we've been junk journaling and what's helped us stick with it, whether it be journals, brands, pens, that sort of thing. So stay tuned for that next episode coming out.
Absolutely. And I would say some of our favorites, right? There might be a lot. So we'll start. We'll start with some of our favorites. And I will say if you're listening and you have your favorite junk journaling trick, tip, or if you have questions, leave us a message, send us a message. We're happy to engage. Like we said, we're looking to build this ongoing community of support, and we also want tips so we can continue learning. So don't forget to subscribe, follow, all those things to keep an eye out for the next episode where we will share at least one, two, or three of our favorite journaling supplies.